I'm Sophie,
Okay, I'm Cass, and
and
this
this
is
is
podcast
Pod Class with Sophie
and Cass.
and Cass.
Okay, so a little rough, but we'll get it. We'll get it.
Yeah.
So,
let's get started.
okay.
So today we're going to talk about a topic that Cass and I relate to a lot because, and I'm pretty sure a lot of you out there relate to as well, because sadly, we have a lot of this in the world we live in today. So Cass, why did we choose this topic?
So I think we chose this topic because, okay, one, it's a hot topic. A lot of people, it's like a buzzword as well, I feel. A lot of people like to throw it around, but because of like their own experiences, me like personally, you as well, and a lot of just any girl and probably even guy that like has had a relationship, has dealt with a person like this maybe. But I think it was also because we wanted to kind of understand like what it is actually. Like I don't want to just like be like, oh, like, you're a selfish person, so that makes you this. Like, no, like, okay, what's going on in your brain that makes you
Exactly. So for those of you who don't know us, which I'm pretty sure, I don't know who's going to watch this or listen, but Cass and I are very intense people, and our conversations are usually like the one we are about to have, which is usually don't record it.
Yeah.
So she's in New Jersey right now.
The brick ass Jersey. That's where I'm. The brick ass Jersey. Yes.
Yeah.
And so she's in Spain,
which is it's alright. It's alright.
The guy.
The guy. So the first thing, right? Because you said, of course, like I totally relate to what you said about people throwing the word around. So we're referring to narcissism, which the episode is going to be called Narcissism. And I do feel like that's definitely a thing that happens with a lot of personality disorders and mental illnesses. Like you see people call other people all the time, oh no, she's bipolar, or he's a narcissist. And it's like, like this is an actual thing that people have and people go through, and it's not fair to just diagnose someone without really knowing what it is.
Yeah.
So, all right. So where does narcissism come from? Like, what's the story behind it?
The story. Okay, so I don't know if you remember this, maybe like in your sophomore year of high school English or something like that, but we read a lot of Greek mythology. So the story of Narcissus. So pretty much Narcissus is this guy who's like really hot and he doesn't want anybody. He's just like, no, I don't want anyone. And then one day he looks into a pond and he looks at his reflection. He's like, wow, like I'm so fine. And he falls in love with himself and literally falls in and dies. So like he like died by his own like vanity, I guess. But yeah,
self-obsession.
So, yes, exactly. So that's where it comes from. And then like, Freudian psychology adopted that term to explain this person with this kind of personality disorder. So yeah.
So which basically the story behind it is the core of what it is. Like, when you talk about a narcissist person, it's like this person's so obsessed with themselves that they don't really care about what happens to themselves or even others, as long as their ego is, fed.
Yeah.
Basically. So the next thing that we looked into, because personally, I always thought that narcissism was something that you grew up with, like depending on how you were raised, you became a person or not, So after doing the research, we found out that in fact it can be nurture, but it can also be nature.
Yeah. So do you want to start with
go ahead, because you're the genetic genius.
No, but okay, so I just like give you a little like bio background because I really find the nurture aspect of it really interesting. So so pretty much what they found, and so there's not a lot of studies done, first of all, on people with narcissism, because one, it's really hard to diagnose. Not a lot of people that are narcissists care to find out that they're narcissists or even work on it, as we'll like talk about later in the podcast. But it also is something that what they found is that there are some oxidative stress biomarkers that are elevated in people with narcissistic personality disorder and borderline personality disorder. Now, NPD for short, you're like, you have high self-esteem, quote unquote, and you're into yourself. But BPD, which is the border personality disorder, it's the complete opposite. So it's kind of interesting that both of these stress markers were found in these two diseases, being that they like, they kind of show themselves in very different ways, literally opposite ways. But also another thing is, which I found really, really interesting. I got super excited about this. And everything's going to be linked. So if you guys want to like see, like where we like got this information, we'll definitely link it in the description. But, in the description. Yeah. So with some brain scans that they've done with participants, so it was a study out of 34 people. 17 of them were diagnosed with NPD, and they found that there was a certain area of the cerebral cortex where the gray matter was actually less in volume. And that's where you generate your feeling of compassion or empathy. So that just shows like literally like they cannot empathize. Like it's something that's like in their brains, like they lack that. So it's like, okay, like this is also something that someone can be born with. So it just takes a lot into like what we'll later talk about how we like experience it. But yeah.
So like for me as a teacher, obviously, it's always very important to know how it is affected in the child, in a person's development at an early age, which is what I usually focus more on. And, how do you raise a narcissistic child? Obviously, no parent wants that for their kids. It's not something that's intentional. And it's something that a lot of people struggle with, because when you're raising this person as an adult, you start seeing behaviors and attitudes that you can't help them. Like this person is already who they are and there's no turning back. There isn't really any specific treatment to treat narcissism as of today. So one of the things that they were saying that caused a person to grow into narcissism was constant telling your kid that they're the best, that they're perfect, basically not setting a realistic setting of life. Obviously no one is the best at everything. It's impossible. Now, another thing they said was you cannot diagnose a child with narcissism. Okay. You cannot, it's only in adults. And the reason is because children and teenagers, we kind of have narcissistic traits, which is something we're going to get into after. What's the difference between having narcissistic traits and being a narcissist? It's two different things, and it's important to recognize the difference. So in terms of nurture, parents out there, it's okay to tell your kid that they're doing good, but don't always tell them that they're the best, because it can eventually affect them negatively.
Of course. I think that's so like important to think about, and like a guideline in a way for parents, because I think that a lot of the times they like to just like, I mean, I'm not a parent, I can't really even put my shoes into what it would feel like to like have, your own kid. But I also think that like we can't be selfish in loving them, because I think that for you not wanting your kid to suffer, or like your kid to like not see, deal with failure, for example, in their lives, then you're trying to minimize their suffering, but also your own, because you don't want to suffer seeing them suffer. But it's like, you have to like learn to like be able to control that, because then you can, breed a kid that doesn't follow any rules or respect authority or stuff like that.
Yeah, because they did research like in parents with narcissistic kids as adults. And one of the things was that these people would do the most was, which we're going to see this in relationships too, right? these people only go to their parents when they need something. I need money. I need whatever. I need you to sign a paper, whatever it is, right? And the parents give it to them thinking, oh, if I give this to him or to her, they're going to come back to me and they're going to be nicer to me and they're going to treat me good. And reality is no, once they have what they have, that's it. Like they don't need you anymore, which is how they say that they feed off of people, which is what narcissistic people do. They literally feed off of supply. That's what they call like the people that are dealing with them.
So like, sick. Like supply. Like, are we vampires?
I mean, yeah, you read a lot. Okay, so little tea or whatever. I'm signed up to this like blog thing where like they constantly send me things of people saying like my ex-husband was a narcissist and he's messaging me now again. Like, what do I do? What does this mean? And everything that these people are saying are like, that's just because they got tired of their new supply. Like they need their old supply back. And it's like reading that and like, Jesus Christ, like, it's like what you were saying with the lack of empathy. Like, I don't see you as a human. I see you as a thing
that I use for my convenience, type thing. Yeah.
Exactly. Which is crazy.
Yeah. Because it's like, I want to be like, oh, it's fucked up. But then I'm like, oh, but like your brain is built different. Like, it's not even like, I don't know. So, but then again, it's also like the nurture thing.
Yeah. But then like, that's the thing, right? Like after doing the research for this and, the genetic part, the conversation that you and I had the other day and I've been thinking about this question literally the entire week that you were like, is it their fault?
Yeah. It's
like, is it their fault?
Philosophy. We should like have a little philosophy thing.
Dot.
Yeah, but like exactly, like is it their fault? Because one, they grew up this way, and if they're genetically predisposed to have this kind of condition, and it's fed, then it creates that, like it creates that kind of like person. With that disorder.
But then this is like, so I get the genetic part, right? But then this is where I guess I question it, because one of the things that they talk a lot about narcissistic people that they do is gaslighting. And I actually think that gaslighting is becoming something so common in like these days of like, okay, ladies, and I'm saying ladies because men, I strongly doubt that you've ever felt this way. Ladies, have you ever felt?
It was like,
period. Have you ever felt like, yo, I'm going crazy? Like, am I crazy for feeling this way? Am I crazy for thinking this? Like, hold up.
What if you have, let us know. We want to know.
We want to know because it's not you. It's not you. The other person is gaslighting you. They're saying things. And then, for example, right, personal experience, I'm not going to get too much into details just in case anyone feels like it's them, whatever. So let's just say, you're having an argument and this person calls you, anything that you can find on Urban Dictionary. This person calls you that.
Yeah.
And then, a couple weeks go by, you guys don't talk, and then they hit you back as if nothing happened. And you're like, what? Did he not say these words? So that's why now you have to screenshot it, because you're like, wait, no, you said it. It's right here, because if you don't screenshot it, then you're like, then the person's gonna make you believe, oh, I never said that, or you made me say that, But then that's one of the things that they mentioned. When you feel like you have to screenshot, when you feel like you have to record everything, you need to walk away.
And that's the thing. And that's like also when I asked you that question the other day, and I was like, oh, is it their fault? It's kind of like, of course, it's difficult to get out of that situation. Like you're literally mind fucked. But
basically.
But it's also like, okay, like once I'm aware, then it's kind of my fault if I don't walk away, because I know the kind of person that this person is. I just have to come to that realization. And then once I do, it's like, you know what, like this for me doesn't work. So, like fuck your actions. For me, it doesn't work. Like we don't work. Like that's cool. Like that's
okay.
Yeah. But But I mean, again, doesn't take away from like what, you know, we're left with, you know, like the side effects in a way of it. And like, which, you know.
Yeah. I mean,
also,
I feel, go ahead.
No, I just wanted to mention, because before when you said like, oh, like ladies, like I know you felt this way, but that's because you actually brought up the point about how it's seen more in men than in women.
Oh yeah, like that's
so like you were just like
research. Okay, before you guys come at me, research says that this affects men more than women. Okay, so y'all are the ones who are crazy and are making us feel some type of way. Period. And then not only that, so like, hold on, I lost my train of thought because I was, okay.
Yeah.
So like, I feel like another thing, at least for me, and I'm sure I'm not the only one that's experienced this, when you're in a situation like that and you want to leave, but like you can't, I feel that it's because you have that false need of having closure. But it's like, you don't need closure. Like, you know, this person's not going to give you the closure. Yeah. They're not, because they know that if they do, that's it, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like, you need to walk away from like feeling that you need that.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Honestly, that's the only way. Because the thing is that, like, I think when you're in that situation, you kind of wait for this person to like give you the, you know, the green light, and to just be like, you know, are you done? Like, is this done? Like, are we done? And then they don't. And you're like, tell me.
I'm crazy.
You know? I'm crazy. Like, leave me alone.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like, you know, I need to just kind of like clarify this for myself. And we never get that clarity until we give it to ourselves.
The same thing with setting boundaries, right? Like, with a narcissistic person, so in relationships, this is how it works. And again, research, okay? So apparently, when you start dating, let me just say that. When you start dating them, everything is perfect, you know? Because this is the thing, you don't fall in love with the shitty person, obviously. You fall in love with the nice person, you know, the one who treats you right, and they make you believe, like, this is the one, like, I found my person. So once they notice that you're right there, right into them, right? They're like, okay, now I'm going to be an asshole, and you're going to stay because you're in love with me, and I know that you are, you know? Yeah. So then that's when they start mistreating you, and it's the psychological abuse, the emotional abuse, and it's always a question mark. For me, I always felt a constant, like, not knowing how he feels. Like, does he love me? Does he not love me? You know what I mean? Like, and because you don't know, you want to find out. And because you want to find out, you stay and you forgive. And then, so I feel like for me, you know, the only thing that really, really works is, and I know that this is so cliche, it's working on yourself. Like, literally focus on yourself. If you need to disconnect from social media or like whatever it is, you know, but once you meet that level of like self-love, it's like, I'm not going to let you or anyone disrespect me like that, you know, and there's nothing you can say or do that's going to make me think otherwise. Preach.
Preach.
Pat on the back.
Pat on the back. Yeah, we have to give ourselves that place. Like, that's it. Like, if you know, like, don't expect that person to do it. And if they're not, then like, okay, like, it is what it is. But like, I'm going to give myself my place by myself, like, if that's what it takes. Yeah.
And you know, one thing that you said to me, I'm never going to forget. So you guys, Kat has been in my life, like, if my soul had a voice, it's Cassandra. Like, she literally, I remember we used to live together before Corona. Corona. And one day, because we lived really close to the beach, one day we were walking to the beach. It was one of those Sunday nights that we would have wine like hella late. And we were just talking about all this drama and stuff. And one thing you said that I was like, damn, you're right. You know, when you're with someone and there's just so much garbage, like garbage memories, you literally told me, you guys are ruined for each other. And it's like, I feel like there's so much meaning to that. Not only like, we're ruined for each other, but that doesn't mean that I'm ruined. Like, I just, you know, you and I, like, it doesn't make you a bad person either necessarily. It's just that you and I, we expired. Yeah, like, that's it. You know, like, it's really time. And I see so many of my friends that, you know, they are really having trouble with accepting, like, that's it, bro. You need to let that man go, you know?
Oh.
But yeah,
No,
it's just, I don't know.
I know, and that's so nice that, thank you for saying that. Yeah, like, I miss you so
wings.
much. Oh my God, with
I miss you too, bro.
But yes, me and Sophie fell in love like 3 years ago.
We did though. Honestly,
yeah.
shout out to Jeremy.
Shout out Jeremy.
Shout out to Jeremy for. I wonder if he's actually gonna watch this. I'm gonna send it to him.
Oh, you will now.
You will now.
But yeah, we met, and honestly, I love Sophie because it's like a friendship of growth, and I'm so happy she like pushed me. I mean, pushed me, but like, you know, to like do this. She's like, all right, let's do it, and I was like, okay, let's do it.
Yeah. You know, and I don't want anyone to take offense to this, but like when it comes to like work stuff or like stuff like this, like Cass is my go-to friend. Like, because for example, like I know that if we're gonna do it, like we're gonna do it. You know what I mean? And it's like not everyone's like that, which is not a bad thing. It's just that not everyone's like that, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm really happy that we're doing it. And yeah, we have a very intense friendship, you guys, to be honest. Like our conversations are most of the time like this.
I know, and it's so nice though, because I feel like stimulated on like, you know, just more than she's my level, you know what I mean? Like she's like, you know, she teaches me stuff, and like I feel maybe
we learn a lot, yeah, for sure. So yeah, I'm like going back to the issue. So now to finish off with love or dating relationships. Another thing that they mentioned, which I've seen third hand, is when two narcissistic people date. You know, because if you have one, they're feeding off of the other person. But if you have two, then what happens? What do you think is going to happen? It explodes, right? So that's exactly what happens. It goes, that's it, done and over with. Because apparently, which I didn't know this either, but now that I know it, it makes a lot of sense. Narcissistic people, when they look, like what they look for in relationships, or one of the things that they look for is like, I want people to see that I'm dating you. Like, look at my girl, you know, like she looks like Sofia Vergara or whatever the case. And if it's both parties feeling this way, how long can that last? Like, even when you're dating someone long term, like, yeah, you're going to be proud of them, but that's not why you should be proud of them. You know what I mean? Like, so then in those relationships, it only lasts for a couple of months, and then they start getting tired of each other. And because they can't empathize with the other person, the arguments go crazy, you know, because I'm not making the effort to understand where you're coming from, and you're not making the effort to understand where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
So a lot of the times it ends up violently.
Unfortunately, which is sad. I think, and like, can we just like put this out there, message to anyone who needs to hear this? Violence in a relationship is 130,000,000% never the answer. Like, no, you know, like on both ends, you need to respect yourselves, like, and you know, and I feel like we're losing sight of like what a relationship is supposed to be. Like, a relationship is supposed to be a friendship overall, someone who respects and cares about your well-being, you know, not just someone who's trying to show you off or trying to be like, oh, I got a girl now, or whatever you know, whatever your ego is feeding you. So I think that like it's just, it really, really, really breaks my heart to see, like, especially girls that I've known, like, unfortunately going through shit like this, because it's like, you don't deserve this. Like, no, like,
because you want to know
yourself.
Something. Yeah, exactly. Like, I hear, okay, so like with feminism and stuff, right? I hear a lot of the times like, oh yes, like men suffer abuse too. Of course they suffer abuse too. Like, we're not saying that men don't suffer abuse, but statistically, women are the ones, like, you hear of women getting murdered and all these crazy things that you're never going to think it's going to happen to you until it does.
Yeah.
You know, like, it never starts with me beating you up, obviously, you know? And I think that, like you said, it's so important to shine light on that, on the fact that, like, it's not okay. And like, you need to leave the moment that it escalates to that point. And also it goes the same for men. Like if you're dealing with a woman that is triggering you to the point where she's hitting you, because I've also seen this, you know, like women abuse men,
it goes both ways.
Looking for a reaction, a violent reaction, so that I can call the cops on you or whatever, you know, and take my kids away from you. You also see that happening. And it's like you said, like, how do we get to that point? Like, how do you get from like dating someone and like wanting to fall in love and like be good to that point? It's the issues that people have.
True.
You know, like it's true. We're a reflection of like our thoughts and how we feel about the world and how we were brought up.
Yeah. And you know, like coming back to like the central theme, you know, like this whole like narcissist like thing, it's sad because, you know, this like grandiose sense of self that they have isn't real. Like they're actually super, super insecure. They're always seeking validation. That's why I feel like social media is like a breeding ground for narcissists, because you're just constantly like getting this kind of attention and like on your looks and whatever. Like you're just trying to kind of like, I don't know, like, you know what I mean? Like just be like,
feed off of the attention.
Yeah. And I'm just like, no, like.
Which another red flag in relation to that is because they feel like they're the best at everything, they feel entitled to criticize everything that you do because I'm superior to you. But now if you say anything that may damage my self-image, I lash out. And that's what they do, you know? If you disagree with them, then that's when literally they insult you, or, you know, it's different for everyone, but it's not a healthy communication that's going on there.
And and that's another thing. It's like, and then it goes into the, you know, gaslighting and controlling and all this shit, because now you have a person that's telling you, you know, what to do, what not to do. And, you know, and sometimes it's in little ways of like, not even being like, don't wear that, but it'll just be like, oh, people who wear that are this. So then you're kind of just like,
it makes you think twice, like, wait, am I that person?
Yeah. So I definitely think that if you think you're dealing with a narcissist, you gotta.
And if you think you are, or again, for example, I don't think I necessarily have been with a narcissist. Yeah. I think I was with a person who had narcissistic traits, which are still very unhealthy. Yeah. You know, like it's still really bad, but not to the point of me being like, okay, you have the personality disorder. You know, because also I'm obviously not I don't have a right to diagnose anyone with anything, but I've seen with, you know, firsthand some of these traits in the relationship that I had. So, you know, you can be in a situation where the person where like, you know, this person has these behaviors, and it's like, if you think that you are, you probably are.
Yeah.
You know,
and also speaking of traits, right? So we say like someone who's narcissist like has like, you know, it's feel like whatever, like all the attention on them, yada yada yada. But you did mention that you found stuff about like a vulnerable narcissist. Was that what that was?
Yeah. So they were saying that there's two kinds of narcissists. Hold on, I have it. Yeah. So like you were saying, the grandiose, which is the person who is super extroverted. They always feel like they're the dominant one, very outgoing, very secure of themselves. And then you have the vulnerable one, which when we were talking about it, and it's true, it's not very heard of. Because when you think of a narcissist, you think of the first one. But apparently the vulnerable one is the opposite. It's a quiet person. They're shy. They don't really express their emotions. But when they feel like their ego is hurt or their image of themselves is damaged, then they go off. So, you know, just because you're with a quiet person, and, you know, we're talking about relationships, but literally you can have a friend who's a narcissist. You can have a parent.
A parent. Yeah. Like this isn't just, we're not just talking about love here. Like we're talking about like relationships in your life.
In general, because, you know, a parent, like, it's hard. And of course there's cases where, you know, and a lot of the times, or probably most of the times, narcissistic parents raise narcissistic kids. because you know you don't.
Looks like a
Exactly.
chain.
Yeah.
Now, okay, so speaking of like, all right, so if it's like a chain and stuff, and let's say you want to break the chain, how does someone even be like, I'm a narcissist? Like, do they ever think that? Like, do they ever feel like, yeah, I'm like, I'm a narcissist?
One of the things, I watched this like whole bunch of YouTube videos from this doctor. Her name is, hold on, I have her name here. Her name is Ramani, Dr. Ramani, I think. Yeah, Dr. Ramani. And she was saying that that's one of the biggest issues and with narcissism. And that's why, like you said earlier, there aren't that many studies on it, because people who are narcissists, they don't acknowledge it or they refuse to accept it. So because, you know, they refuse to accept it, how are you going to get help? How are you going to get treated? How are your relationships with others going to improve? They don't. So, you know, one of the parents who was dealing with a narcissistic kid, but I mean kid, like their child, but it was an adult, okay? Yeah. They asked her, like, what can I do? Like, is there anything that I can do to help the situation? And she said, honestly, at this point, it's extremely difficult because, like I said earlier, they don't have any treatments for it. And then if the person doesn't want to accept it, like, you know, and even if they do, most of the time, which this happens a lot, again, in dating, you know, when you accept, and the person's like, okay, you know, I accept like my behavior is not whatever. They accept it for a couple of weeks, maybe a couple of days, and then they go back to being the shitty person that they were before. Which is why I always stress with my friends and now with everyone else who's watching, this time is going to be different. This time is going to be different. How many times do you need to live the same situation to realize that in fact it is not different? Like, you know, like it's just crazy to me because if you really think about it, like we've all been there, you know, like you go back and you're like, no, but he said or she said, you know, this, and it's like, no, you know. And with friendships, like I'm really like, after studying about this, I think I'm going to be more mindful about people's behaviors. Again, not saying that everyone is a narcissist, but like narcissistic traits, you know?
Because you can kind of like, you just get a vibe, right? You get a vibe. Like you'll be like, we're, you know, like you're cool, whatever. We could like hang out this one time, but I'm not going to seek you. Like we're good like that. So we're back, you guys. We had to drink un poquito because, tú sabes, well, yeah, we basically, I mean, I feel like this topic, if there's anything that you guys feel like you want us to talk about in relation to this or anything else, feel free to let us know. I think we addressed all the issues that concern narcissism. And yeah, we gave personal experiences. I did. Yes, I did share. I think that just sharing well. But I definitely think that it's, you know, if you guys want to like, you know, want to hear certain topics, but this is just the point of our podcast. Like we're just gonna choose a topic and talk about it and talk shit, but also talk about like, you know, some real stuff too. So if you are interested, you know, follow us.
Follow us or whatever. That's it. Yeah. So this was fun for the first time, you know.
First time.
If we went a little off track here and there, please excuse us. You know, this is what we do.
Yeah, all the time.
And best believe this is what we will continue to do.
It's not stopping.
So, yeah.
Okay.
Catch you guys in the next one.
On the flip side.